Alright guys, it's time to repair the tractor. There's your old John Deere over there. Well, I can't say old, I bought it new 4 years ago. It's got the backhoe and front loader. It's got a 23 horse, I believe it is. I was going to go to the next stage up, but I haven't got farmland or anything here. I just got like 3-4 acres of land, so yeah, I don't need anything any heavier than that. So 4-wheel drive, 23 horse, diesel, backhoe, front loader. It's got a belly deck if I need it. It's got the weight box in the back. It's got the plow, got the chain. It's got everything I need. However, I was doing some field clearing and a tree came down and gave us a little dent. So now it's time to work on it, fill it, and repaint it. Now over the last 4 or 5 years, I work my tractor and I work them hard sometimes, so it gets a lot of scratches and such. So I'm actually thinking about painting almost the whole thing, if not anything, but at least the tin. You know, the hood, the lower part down there that you see, where are we going here? I'll zoom in on it. That down there on both sides. And the rear shell, you know, the fenders and such. And all the structure and the hydraulics and the buckets, and I'll leave that all alone. So, yeah, I really don't know if I just want to do a John Deere color on it, or, I mean, I know what it is, so it's not a big deal. It does what it has to do. Even though I did pay for the name. I'm thinking just camo it, use some Cerakote on it. It wouldn't take a whole lot, probably 4 or 5 jars. So, but we'll see what happens anyway. But right now we're going to get working on fixing the dent. Catch you later. Alright, there we go. Now, still have to sand it down a little more, and then I got to bring this up a little bit more, so I got to put a little bit more fill in there. But I want to wait until I get all this sanded down some more, because I don't want to put too much naturally, just to put a skim on there. So once we get that done, we'll start putting some primer on it, sealer, and get the tractor in here and start taking it apart so we can finish painting the rest of it. Yeah, that's where we're at so far, guys. Oh, and by the way, make sure it's well ventilated. You're hearing all the fans going, I'm sure, in the background right now, and the doors are open. But the stuff does have a smell to it. And it's going to create a lot of dust. So pay attention as to where you're going to do it. You know, and that's it. Now, also, only mix a little of this stuff at a time, because it's going to harden relatively quick. So if you mix up like the whole can, for instance, it's going to harden that can before you have a chance to do anything. So either get an old cardboard box and cut it up and use, you know, the tabs of the boxes, and, you know, put a little bit at a time with a little bit of hardener on it. Mix it up well. You know, mix it up with one of the spreaders if you have to. Alright, now this has only been sitting there maybe 3 minutes, and it hardened up right away. So you really got to pay attention. You're going to waste it if you mix up too much at once. So mix up a little at a time, and when you're done, make sure you seal the can. You know, mix it up on, like I say, something you don't care about. This is an old lid that I'm using. I've also, excuse me, have some more smaller lids over here that I don't use for anything other than if I got to mix little hardeners or something. If not, a cardboard box, cut it up, you know, into 1 or 2 foot sections, and use it. And like I say, mix a little bit of time, because it's going to harden up on you. Alright, so just a word of advice. I remember my first time doing anything with Bondo was on a 68, no, I'm sorry, my 69 Super B, my Dodge Super B, and along the trunk had some rust. So never doing it before, I went to the body shop and I bought a gallon of Bondo, and I put the whole tube of Bondo into the gallon of hardener, rather, into the gallon of Bondo. And as I was mixing it, it hardened with the stick in it. So I wasted a whole gallon of Bondo. And that taught me a lesson at that point. Not so much that I lost a whole lot of money, it was only like $10 or so, but it was just the aggravation of having to go get another gallon and going through it all again. So prep it well, mix up small amounts as needed, seal your cans, definitely buy a shaping file. And if you're going to do a whole car, it may be worth spending a few dollars buying a shaping file, buying a longboard, buying a DA. If you've got a good air compressor, you can get one with air. If not, get an electric. But it's going to use a lot of air, so you can't use one of those little, small jobs. You're going to need a big one. And that's it. You got the tools and the time and a little patience. It's actually quite calming and enjoyable. And if you get a chance and you can't feel any imperfections once you think you're all done with it, have your wife come out, because for some reason their hands are softer. Have your wife come out, put a couple of Kleenexes down, and let her wipe over it with her palm and her whole hand with a Kleenex underneath between them, and she'll be able to feel any imperfections that you may not be able to feel or see. But at that point, you sand it down and you'll find your highs, you find your lows, and it'll tell you where you got to put and where you have to take. If you find a low, that means I got to build it up. If you find a high, we got to bring it down. If the dent's here, well, you may have to work around it, because whatever happens here is going to disturb what happens around the outer side. So you just can't work on it. You have to work it in and work out the whole picture. By bringing this in, may bring this up. So, all right, guys. I'm not a professional at this, but I've putzed around enough to pick up a couple of tips that I find useful for myself. So hopefully you'll find them useful as well. So we went from guns to stuff. Alright, again, here we are. Now, we've sanded it, we've primed it. Now this is only the initial priming. This is going to show me, I already started to sand it here. This is going to show me any imperfections that I may see when I put the paint on it. Yeah, there's another one there if you can see it. Alright, the line is just a little off, so I got to shape that in a little bit more. Alright, so like I say, it's going to show those little imperfections that you thought you had. Here's corner here, right in there, up in here. Now when I put a gloss on here, if I didn't check this, and I assumed it was okay, and I just sprayed it with a gloss, that would have been 10 times full as far as looking the imperfections. So I got to pick up more primer, because that's one thing you guys should check. Always make sure you have enough material. As you can see, I ran out, but I had enough to cover everything that I've been working on. So I'm going to sand this down with some maybe 1800, 2000 wet dry and clean it up a little bit more. And well, first I'm going to sand it down and get my imperfections out. Then I'm going to wet sand it with some 2000 just to get the so-called orange peel out of it from the spray can with the primer. I used a spray can on this with the primer. I didn't use the air gun. And then once I'm done with that, I'll prime it down one more time and see if she's ready to go. And if so, then we'll start applying some paint. Alright, here we are so far. Alright, we're done with the wet sanding. And all the visible imperfections, anyway, that I can see, they're all out. Now we can get ready to do one more priming and a little bit more sanding, and then that's it. Then I can put some paint on it. Good. Now this piece took a little bit harder, a little bit longer, because I had to fix a few little dents and such. But when I do the rest of the tractor out there, it's not going to take nearly as long, because I just got to sand it down. So it's not going to be a big deal. But there we are. Whoops. Now also, I don't know if you noticed, I got a rubber mat under there. We don't want the project that we're working on to be sliding all over the place when we're trying to sand it. So I use one of these exercise mats. Seeing that I don't use it to exercise with, I use it to put my my shit on if I got to work on it, to keep it from sliding around. Same if I was using a router or something like that. So, alright guys, here we go. I'll come back with some more. Well, I'm getting ready to paint. Where are we here? The John Deere. Now here's the hood. This is the one that had the big dent over here in the corner, which is all out of there. Then I primed it and did some sanding, and when I did that, I found that there was a couple little dimples, 3 to be exact, right there. So because it is metal, and I was lucky enough for it to be metal and heavy enough, if you heat it up around the area, most of the time it'll suck that nipple or dimple back into its original, because it kind of remembers where it was, and it wants to go back there. You just got to give it a little help. So now I'm going to wait for that to cool a little bit, then I'm going to sand it down just to see how far it went back into its original state. I may have to do a little bit of Bondo, or maybe a little snot, I don't know yet. And then it's time to start wet sanding it so I can get a good finish on it. And then I got to decide from there how much I'm actually going to do on the tractor. Like I said, the front loader and the backhoe, they're going to get scratched up regardless, so I don't care too much about them. You know, I just want to stop them from exposed to the weather elements so that they don't rust. But the body, it's in good shape. It really is. This is the only dent I had. But I'll go around that and see if I find any scratches. I was going to camo the whole thing, but I decided, you know what? Keep it like it is. It's a John Deere. I paid big money for that name, so why should I hide it with camo? Alright guys, I'll let you know how I make out.